All right, guys, we're going to get started here. On the call tonight is James Thomas, who's our Academy Boys Director. My name is Paul Nicholson. I'm the Technical Director and Head Coach of the USL2 team at Kings Hammer FC. As we get started, I just want to thank you all for jumping on the call. We're extremely excited about the prospect of us joining the USL family. And we want to tell you all a little bit more about it today. As you've hopefully already heard, Kings Hammer FC have joined the USL2. The USL2 is the top pre-professional league in the United States. It's a league that boasts over 70% of all MLS draft picks. They have had a stage in their development over the past 10 years. And obviously we're very excited to provide that for hopefully some of the players, families of players on this call, and for those in our community moving forward. So again, really excited about that. The other thing that we're excited about is the fact that with this, we're able to offer an elite level of programming known as the USL Academy. And we'll dive into the greater details of what the USL Academy is. It's a new platform. It is an elite level platform aimed at players U15 to U19, and there's an overage capability with that also that we'll discuss later. But what we're excited about especially is the fact that we feel it's a realistic stepping stone for players that want to get to the professional ranks within this country. And hopefully beyond. So we'll crack on with the presentation here. We will be, moving forward through this. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and James or myself will pick up on those as we go through. And we'll also have a question and answer stage at the end of the presentation. So first off, I just want to tell those that may not be aware of Kings Hammer, what our mission is. Our mission as a club is to positively impact the development of youth in our community by providing soccer and educational opportunities to young players of all ages and playing abilities, and to create a lifelong passion for the sport of soccer. Obviously, like I mentioned, this particular program is aimed at elite level players in the high school age groups. We will play an active role in their leadership, development, and personal growth, and of the players and the staff, and be an active member in our community through service, partnerships, and programs. Our ultimate goal as a club is to encourage, inspire, and empower each player and coach to be able to reach the highest levels possible within the game and their lives, while helping develop leaders and individuals who will inspire others to do the same. And like I said, we truly believe that this platform, and adding this platform and making it a possibility for the players in this region, from within Kings Hammer, from outside of Kings Hammer, is really helping our mission, and to provide the best possible opportunities for our families to reach their goals and make it to the professional ranks. We also do this through our core values, which are respect, leadership, integrity, passion, and creativity. And these 5 core values will be with us through every single level of the club, but especially within the USL Academy, as we feel that they are going to be the example to follow for the rest of the club as we move. I'm now going to pass it over to James Thomas, our Academy Boys Director. James.
Just first, let me just say thank you everyone for jumping on, and thanks Paul for the start. So this slide here, it really speaks to our player development pathway as a club. And as we move through from U7 all the way up to the pro development, and obviously our focus this evening is more on the 2 bottom grids to this pathway. As we talk about our U15s through U19s, and a focus being learning how to win and placing emphasis on combining performance and results. And then this USL Academy, we really view it as a bridge between, that age group and then our pro development. So that would be, our USL2 group and where the focus is on results. It's on winning, and it's on the competition and competing at a high level. So as we think about the pathway, that's where this USL Academy really fits in. This next slide, it's a bit of an insight into, our principles of play, and as a club, how we view the game. We have an identity from the youth club in the academy, and that also stretches from the pro side down. And this is just a little bit of an insight into the 4 moments of the game and what our desired behaviors are. And as we move through 15 through 19, these are principles that we talk about constantly. And these are also principles that we'll talk about within the academy, as well as within USL2 as we move into the pro pathway. Next slide, we'll kind of talk about staffing and in our on-the-field staff. Our USL program will be led by Paul as a technical director and the USL2 head coach, and then myself as the boys academy director. The USL-A players, they'll have the opportunity to work with our full-time USL2 staff, who are, USSF and UEFA accredited coaches. There'll be more announcements to come on specifics, but we are in the process of putting together a very high-level staff to work with our academy as well as the USL2. And there will be a lot of synergy between both staffs. Paul, anything to add there for staffing?
Yeah, I would add that a big part of this is how we bridge that gap, as James has mentioned, between what is our USL Academy team and our USL2 team, providing exposure for those players on the team to not only a higher level of play, but also a higher level of coaching and matchups there. So I think James has summed it up pretty nicely. But like I said, there'll be some exciting announcements over the coming weeks and months with the staff as it comes together.
So this next piece, we've kind of more focused on the club as a whole, and now we'll kind of the next pieces of this will focus specifically on the USLA and the model that comes with it. We have a short video that kind of sums up what the USLA is nationally and what the league really brings. So,
yeah, and just for any of you guys who have more questions, you can certainly reach out to myself and James with those questions. But there's also a fantastic website. If you Google USL Academy, I believe the website itself is usl-academy.com. There's lots of videos like this that can provide more insights and more information on what the platform is.
With the launch of the new USL Academy player development model, more communities than ever are going to be able to offer a clear path to professional soccer. Traditionally, most academy programs field 3 or more teams between U15 to U19. Oftentimes, though, the top talent can be kept within their age group, limiting their exposure to the next level. By launching a USL Academy platform, these top prospects can be moved into a focused, pre-professional development environment with a direct and immediate connection to their local USL senior team. As teams are formed, clubs will have roster limits on the number of players included across the age range to ensure the focus remains on long-term player development. These programs will be driven by elite player development standards across a number of areas, including coaching, facilities, equipment, technology, fitness, nutrition, character development, funding, and much more. By focusing on a holistic player development approach, and by sharing resources already available at the next level, players will be able to make a seamless transition from youth to pro soccer. All clubs fielding a USL Academy program will be required to form a youth network. This helps grow the game at the grassroots level and allows players to move between each environment based on what's best for their long-term development. As more USL Academy programs begin to take shape, regionalized league conferences will form. And as USL continues to expand at the senior team level, even more pathways will open up while limiting travel demand for each team. Throughout that time, all clubs will also be able to continue participating in the USL Academy Cup events, ensuring the top talent gets to compete at the highest level throughout the year. Ultimately, by providing more communities than ever a chance to build a viable youth-to-pro pathway, the hope is USL can cast a wider net than ever and provide even more players the chance of chasing their dream of playing professional soccer. For more information and to stay up to date on further developments with USL Academy, visit usl-academy.com or search hashtag USL Academy on social media.
For this next slide, it alludes to kind of what that video was talking about the USL Pathway. And one of the reasons why we're so excited to be able to, offer the USL2 and also offer the USL Academy is this pathway here that's represented. The Academy is that first step into the pro pathway. And as you can see here, it's only further up from there within the USL2. And the USL1 is the first step into the pro actual professional environment. And then the USL with the stars, the USL Championship. And then the next step obviously being MLS, which is, the top division in American youth or American professional soccer. We're extremely excited to be offering these steps into that pathway.
Just to James, I think another thing that we're extremely excited about, especially when you look at the age range of the USL Academy, 15s to 19s, is this is going to provide an added layer of exposure for our players and the players involved in this programming, not only to college coaches who will certainly be watching this level of play, but also to the professional teams that are in, say, the USL1 and the USL Championship, and potentially the MLS as well. Within our region, and we'll touch on this a little bit later on, there are several USL Championship teams, as well as a number of USL2 teams that our academy team will be playing against throughout the season, playing against their hopeful future pro homegrown players, and getting exposure with those groups as well. So extremely exciting times, and opportunities for the players that are involved in this program.
So this kind of provides a bit of the structural framework within King's Hammer as we look at the USL Academy and then look at the club as a whole. So obviously underneath the USL team within King's Hammer, we have the youth community programs in the Lions, and then we have the academy, the actual KHA Academy, which then feeds into the USL Academy and the OVPL, which are the first steps towards the USL2. And then, as Paul has kind of talked about throughout, is the USL2 being the pinnacle of that King's Hammer pro development pathway. So this is just a slide representing that pyramid itself.
Yeah, and one thing for those that perhaps aren't aware, the USL Academy is obviously a 15s to 19s league. The OVPL is more of a U23 platform that we also offer that we're very excited about. More geared towards players that have gone off and playing currently in college, and are coming back for the summer months to play or want to play in this area with the team. Both of those are linked directly to our USL2 with staffing, with player movement throughout the summer month.
So now we're getting into some details here on kind of our player statuses and how the USL Academy roster will be stocked. So there's 3 player registration statuses as outlined by the USL. And as we've put out in some of the social media things, but definitely want to reiterate is this is not exclusive to just players that play within the King's Hammer Academy. So these 3 statuses are more geared towards the USL as a whole. We have first status is a part-time senior status. These players, whether they are of the age or even part of the overage population, would be players that are playing with the USL2 team. They are fully rostered with that team, yet do have the opportunity to play with the USL Academy team. And that's just part of more what's added to the synergy between the USL Academy and the USL2 team. The second status would be the full-time academy status. These are players that come in and train within the USL Academy 4 days a week, because that's how often the USL Academy team will train. They're fully rostered with the USL Academy and carded through there, and they are full-time members of the USL Academy team. The third and final status would be a part-time youth status. And these are these contracts or status would be geared towards more of the younger players, also players that don't train full-time with the USL Academy, because the calendar, as we'll see down the line, does stretch into what would be the conventional club calendar. And we would have some training within that calendar. So a part-time youth status would be players that aren't fully training with us, but they're within our youth network, which stretches, you know, what we would hope across the region. And it's more of a long-term, as it says at the bottom, a long-term projection. And it's players that we would want within the academy, but maybe they're not within that full-time status. Anything there to add, Paul? You're muted.
I think you've summed that up perfectly, James. One thing that I would say, and we'll touch on this again in a couple of slides, is just the plan for this summer especially. Won't necessarily mean the contract statuses won't necessarily mean a whole lot this because it's just a summer. Moving forward, the season will extend and go into different periods of the year. So, you know, for right now, a lot of our players, because it is a summer training program, could be full-time academy status. And now I just want to talk a little bit about the vertical integration. We talked a lot about the USL-A and the USL-2 team and how they come together. My role as the USL-2 head coach will be to obviously monitor what's going on with the USL Academy team and handpick those players with the help of the staff and move them up and down into our first team. As I just mentioned there, the seasons will change. The USL have given us basically a 3-year model to get to full-time status because of COVID and some other reasons. There's, you know, a lot of teams that are in the same boat as us for 2021 and we'll only have a summer season. So as you can see on the diagram below, the season will stretch from June into August with potential for some training opportunities late in May. But obviously we're well aware of what our you know, current youth statuses will be of the players, and they're involved with their youth teams at that stage. So that will be 2021, June through August, just the summer months, and that's exactly when the USL2 season goes from May through July. So there's 2 months there where both teams are going, both teams are integrated during the year. James, anything to add?
No.
And then moving into 2022, we will be adding a spring season. And again, this is where the contracts statuses will obviously provide more opportunities for players that are perhaps outside of our club, as well as those inside of our club. And that's when we'll have 2 separate seasons. We'll have a spring season that goes from March to May, and then a summer season that goes from June to August. And there's opportunities within this year or this season, so to speak, where we can add players. There's transfer windows that open up. So there could be opportunities for players to play in the spring as well as the summer, or one or the other, depending on, you know, what our needs are as a club at that time. James, anything to add? And then moving into 2023 and beyond, the hope is to have a spring, summer, and fall season that stretches 10 months across the year, March all the way through to November, where the league playoffs would then be towards the end of that season as well, adding again more exposure to different teams around the country at that stage when we get into the Academy Cup and the playoffs.
I think one big thing just to add to that, Paul, is just within that 2023 calendar, and then also obviously 2022 and 2021. This is something that is a supplement, or it's something additional to club commitments. And we want to work around that. And that's why we're providing it to even outside of King's Hammer. And that's where those statuses come into play, because we realize that obviously, you know, within our own academy, there's 3 days a week of training already. And then this is something where we want to bring those guys together that are on the team to provide that 4th day of training, and then also to provide matches at an extremely high level, playing against other USL championship teams, playing against other USL 1 and 2 teams. This is seen as a full academy, but also it's we realize that there are club commitments. And then also as we look at 2023, you know, this is something that we're seeing as, you know, it in certain realms, it's in addition to high school, or even in some instances, maybe even replacing high school as we get into 2023 and beyond. So it's definitely moving towards being a full academy, and one that we see it being a very high level, just to add to that.
Perfect. And this is basically a little table that may be slightly confusing at first glance. Our aim with this is just to show you that we obviously care about the kids, their well-being, and studies are showing recently in regards to physical development and technical development, that it's very important when you move players up in age groups that you taper or ease them into the high level of play and the high level of competition throughout the year. So this is a little graph that kind of shows, you know, a typical season with the USL2 and the USL Academy going at the same time, and a training model that if a USL Academy player was doing extremely well and we wanted to move them up into the USL2, we wouldn't just do that straight away. These are things that have been proven to, you know, potentially cause injuries, overuse injuries especially, burnout, and also dips in performance, which is obviously not anything that we want to have our players experience throughout the summer. We want this to be a positive environment. So as you can see here, in the first couple of weeks, once we've identified one of those players, they would join our USL2 for 1 day of the week on a very low workload. Going into the third and fourth week, that would bump up to 2 days. Then it would go to 3 days across the week. And this Wednesday is just an example of what a heavy workload day would be. So this is kind of a fitness session. This is when we're hitting, you know, a lot of work in 1 day, and we want to ease those guys in as the season progresses, gradually through the season. So not to confuse you, but just obviously to point out that this is something that we are taking into account. This is nothing that we're kind of just winging. This is something that we feel very passionately about, which is player development and making sure that these players are set up for success and not for failure. And I've experienced this myself. I'm sure James has been in the same boat with players who, you know, initially when they go up a level, whether that's an age or, you know, a level of competition, they're capable because of their ability, but over time, because of the physical workloads, sometimes performances can dip, sometimes injuries can happen, and we want to make sure that we take care of our players as best as possible. James, anything to add there?
I think you summed it up.
And this is our 5-year plan. This was something that we feel is very important. This is something we're extremely excited about. The diagram below, you know, has our 5-year plan. The green people are USL Academy players that feature in our USL2 team. Okay, and you know, obviously we hope for more than just one in this first year, but we feel it's a pretty realistic goal that one of these players could feature in a USL2 game in that first year. The second year we'd be hoping for 2 players from our USL Academy to feature in games in our USL2 team. And then as we move forward, not only are we looking to continue to bring players up through our USL Academy team, but also bring back homegrown players that have gone off to college, having sort of graduated from the Kingshammer USL Academy team, and now want to come back and play for that USL2 team on a full-time basis. And as you can see, the plan's laid out, obviously 2 and 2 in year 3, and then it moves to 3 and 3, and then 3 and 4 as we move forward with that 5-year plan. So now we just want to talk about what the benefits are, but also what the fees will be for this. You know, it will be $500. It's an all-inclusive package where we'll train from June to August. We will be training 4 days a week, and there'll be a minimum of 10 games. Those are league games. We actually have our scheduling meeting tomorrow. On top of those, I anticipate, you know, friendlies competitions throughout the year, as well as games against the USL2 team and the OVPL teams throughout the summer. So lots of opportunities for our players to play at a high level. We spoke earlier about qualified coaches. The training gear will be included. Game day uniforms will also be included. And again, we've spoke about the USL2 vertical integration and trying to get players moved up into our USL2, being exposed to former professional players, some future professional players, and elite level college players from all over the country, which I think will be a fantastic opportunity for their development as they move forward with King's Hammer and hopefully taking those steps to get into college or the professional ranks. As well as that college and professional exposure that we spoke about as well. You know, with any of these elite level programs that's here in the country, college coaches are only going to be interested in coming to those games or tournaments to check out the players there and see the level. And you know, we talk about the diagram before that detailed the USL Academy, the USL2, moving up through the USL League One, Championship, MLS, so on and so forth. When we play against some of these other teams in our division, there's possibilities that we'll be playing against professional players, and this won't affect any status going into college or anything like that because of the contracts that James alluded to before. But those professional players could move down into, say, Louisville City, Pittsburgh Riverhounds, or Indy 11s, USL Academy teams, and be competing against the players on our team. So again, some really fantastic opportunities for all the players that are going to be involved in this. And hopefully you guys are excited and want to get involved in this team too for this summer. James, anything to add?
You summed it up. I think just we're extremely excited about providing this opportunity, and you know, as we talk about the pinnacle of the pyramid and the pro exposure, but not only the pro exposure, but I think also just the exposure to, you know, different collegiate recruiting opportunities and other opportunities there throughout this summer and then moving forward.
So at this point, this concludes the presentation. We're going to open it up in a second for questions. I'd also encourage you to reach out to James and myself via email. James's email address is james@kingshammer.com. Mine is paul@kingshammer.com for more information or questions that you may have regarding this program. And then also, like I mentioned earlier, if you go to the USL Academy website, there's a ton of really good information on the platform, and any questions you can answer or need answered, you can go to that resource too. So if there are any questions, we'd welcome them now. If you don't want to speak up, you can certainly throw them in the chat. One thing that I would mention as well is that, again, this is for U15 to U19 players. Overage players would be picked from our USL2 team and OVPL team throughout the season. We wouldn't be looking to necessarily sign someone as an overage player for the USL Academy.
So Paul, we've got one here. What are the high school implications with USL Academy? You want me to?
Yeah.
So right now, this summer, there are no high school implications for the USL Academy. It runs, beginning in June, it runs through July, and then players would go back into their high school environment after that. As we look forward to 2022 and then 2023 would be that first year where we would start to actually have an impact on high school. And then depending on the state association, the high school state association that the player is in, then there would be an impact in high school because of the interscholastic rules within Ohio. But that's not until, two years down the line. This season, we don't see any implication or any impact on high school and what they're doing. We realize that there might be a little bit of overlap of preseason and what that looks like. And we'd be more than willing. I know that Paul and I had this conversation. We'd be more than willing to speak to any high school coaches or any players about, how that looks and kind of trying to periodize and put their best foot forward as they go into the high school season. We don't want this to cause long-term injuries or anything of that nature. Anything to add to that, Paul?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think, you know, we spoke to it earlier, how we want to protect the players through this process. You know, whether that's, you know, jumping them up from the USL Academy to our USL2 team, or it's, you know, protecting them through our training sessions when they're also training with other teams and doing other things throughout the season. So, you know, and just to touch on what James said, as far as this summer goes, there's no implications at all in regards to high school soccer.
Paul, another one that's come in. Yeah, is there a desire long-term to have a USL1 team?
Not right now. I think this is something that we're obviously we're very excited about this first step. You know, never say never is something that I would kind of put out there right now. But we obviously want to get this right first, and we want to make sure that we put the best product possible out there with the USL2. We obviously have this summer and moving forward to gauge what the reaction is with the USL2 team, and if it's exceptional, which I think it's going to be. I think it's going to generate a lot of buzz this summer and moving forward. You know, who knows? But that's certainly above mine and James's pay grade, I guess you could say.
Any other questions anybody has? Are there tryout dates yet?
Yes, there are, and you can register for them on our website. They're actually going to be this Sunday. There was an email sent out to players through Constant Contact that have reached out either regarding the USL2 team, OVPL team, or the USL Academy team. This will be a trial for all interested parties in any of those three teams. Right now, there are limited spaces left available. If you get to a point where you can't register because the numbers are up, what I would encourage you to do is email James and myself with information about the player. That could be a highlight tape, that could be a bio of where they've played over the past season or so. But we certainly encourage that. We want to give as many opportunities as possible. Hopefully you can understand that, you know, with the spring season in full swing, with spring break currently going on, there's not really a perfect time to do tryouts. So we obviously want to provide as many opportunities as possible. What I would say is there are deadlines in regards to roster forming that the USL have applied that we're working towards. So if there is interest and you are wanting to get involved, sending that information to myself and James as soon as possible would be really beneficial. And again, my email, and I'll put that in the chat in a second, is paul@kingshammer.com, and James's is james@kingshammer.com.
I would second that. If you're not able to make the 11th, please reach out, just so that nothing gets lost in the shuffle, because we obviously understand spring seasons are in full swing. So if there is a reason why you can't make it, we definitely encourage anyone to reach out to us.
And I've just put our email addresses in the chat as well for anyone interested.
Is there anything else? Just as a note, we've recorded this. If anybody else does know of anyone else that's interested, we will definitely put this out there. If anyone does have any other questions that come up afterwards, or if you didn't want to kind of speak up here, I can't reiterate enough to reach out, because we want to make sure that we answer any questions. We don't want those to go unanswered, or there to be any questions surrounding the program and what we're looking to do.
Yeah, and just to reiterate that, James, before we jump off, you know, please reach out if you do have questions. I understand that perhaps some of this is overwhelming and new information, and we want to make sure that we give an opportunity to as many people as possible to make this team, because we do think it's a fantastic opportunity for players in this region to not only better themselves, but to just get a fantastic experience alongside our USL2 team, potentially playing against some of the best youth players in the country, and future college players and future professional players. So please reach out.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time. I know it's a busy time for all of us in soccer right now. So thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much, Paul. Hope to see you soon again, okay?
Good to see you, Abe.
Take care.
I put the remaining guys in the waiting room.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I think you're able to just stop this.